What's that? Oh, you better have some. They're uh, they're restricting us just to the holes now.
That's okay too, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Still
pretty
kind of
good.
messy though.
Oh yeah. No, no, no.
Need a toothpick to come up with it.
Donuts. Who
Well,
cares
it went well.
Yeah.
In Indiana. My granddaughter and everything.
She lives there.
The only thing is something personal. She doesn't really got it anymore.
Hmm?
Isn't it strange? She was brought up in a Christian family. Her parents.
Yeah. A lot of questions about science, and about
But I did watch your class.
Did-
I didn't. Of course, I didn't get the one on the first one. You didn't have that one.
oh no,
This
you
last
you were
one.
smart to be away from that. It was as you can tell from out here, right?
Reminds
Nothing.
me of more Minnesota.
Oh yeah, but then my son sent a screenshot of what it was like there 2 weeks ago. It's 23 below zero.
Where's that one? Moorhead or where?
No, no, in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
So more, and probably even more so.
So I'll eat these donuts.
Yeah. Pastor Ted,
Anderson, how are you?
I'm well. Good to see you. Good to
Good
see
to see
you.
you made it in this cold day.
Oh yeah, yeah. If there's a silver lining to spending years in Minnesota, you get accustomed to this.
I'm wearing a cashmere overcoat
Smart.
that I bought in Minneapolis.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I flew out of Washington on a 5 o'clock flight for a bishop's meeting. No, for an ordination. in
Ordination. Yeah.
Minnesota. And it was 70 degrees in Washington. And I'm virtually with my coat over my suit coat over my arm in shirt sleeves in the parking lot at Baltimore. I get to Minneapolis and it's snowing.
Yeah.
It was so cold. I found a men's store instantly, got a taxi from the airport, said I can't handle this. Bought the coat right off the shelf.
Yeah.
It's so heavy today I can hardly lift it.
Oh,
I was still cold.
it was just. It's
was
it's cold.
awesome.
Yeah, it's cold. It's
Oh
cold.
my God. I had, fortunately, Metro DC Synod didn't have many students at Luther Seminary in Minneapolis.
No,
Didn't they
no.
all, you know?
You didn't have to go there.
But we had two there.
Yeah, you had
And I was
to. Yeah.
out to see that.
It is. It's cold. Well, I lived in that area. It is. Greg, how are you?
Yeah.
How is life?
I'm here at least
That's a good thing, right?
through all the snow.
We got to do it. I mean, it's a hiccup, but it's not. It's nothing.
Well, it looks open to me.
Get the front row seat.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a minute more, and then we'll start. Thank you. How are you? Good. Good to see you. Things are well.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see where the light is. Is that the switch over here? Is that it?
Yes, sir.
We want to create the atmosphere here, Alan. I know you believe in that sort
I
of
was
thing.
going to put my sunglasses on.
That's right. No, we want to see a short piece here. I don't. Can you see? If we don't want to make this too dark. To imagine folks are not going to. Let me set this up a little bit. I was thinking about this, and I'll try to bring it full circle for us. It's about a minute and a half or so, and so you will see just a bunch of guys running, and then I'll try to contextualize it for us in terms of some of what we're doing, and maybe a little bit of what is happening in the world right now, mostly in Italy. So if yeah, let's get some sound. Can you see? Yeah. Let it go. Let it go beyond what I told you. And you will see that building there that says Carlton Hotel. It isn't, but yeah, there. And then we'll go back to them. Yeah, it is. There we go. There we go. Let me see if I could. We'll go back here. I thought I'd start a little bit with this. You probably recognize maybe if you have not seen that movie. By the way, it's worth seeing. It's an old movie, as you probably have guessed, and the context for that running scene that actually begins the movie is, believe it or not, um, a worship service in the cathedral in London, where the last of those runners, whose name was Abraham, the Jewish, the story about the Jewish runner, died. And so it was a celebration in a way of his life and legacy. He became known as Lord Abraham. And so the movie sort of becomes a reflection of what led to that final moment in 1978 when he died and they had the funeral service. So what you saw there is the opening scene of the movie, all right? And I want to bring this full circle so you don't think that we're going crazy here with this. By the way, that could also be true, that we're going crazy with this. And the opening scene, anyone recognize it? Where? Huh? The opening scene where they're running. You remember it? Yeah, but you remember the opening scene where they were? No, it's on the shores of the North Sea, right? And that building, that whole setting you saw in the background there with the steeple, okay, that was my university where I studied, okay? And so this is in St. Andrews, by the way. That scene is in St. Andrews. It's not, I mean, it was meant to be, English, but it wasn't. The English are always stealing stuff from the Scots, of course.
Did you run there?
Huh?
Did you run there?
I did.
There you go.
Yeah, I did on more than one occasion. Not anything like that, of course, And it's cold even in the summer, as you can imagine. And the scene there is the opening scene, and where you saw the Carlton Hotel, actually, it's not. It is now, it used to be part of the university, believe it or not, I guess a residence hall once upon a time, long time ago, and now it's all these very upscale apartments that most of us, I don't want to speak for you, but most of us, meaning Vera and I, couldn't afford to buy one of those. Now, what's the deal here? And it connects with some of what's going on. And Vera and I we were really fortunate to actually return to this place 12 years ago in 2013 for the 600th anniversary of the university. And as you know, this is where also Prince William and Kate went to school. And when I heard that they were going there, I wrote to one of my former professors simply with a question that says, are they just accepting anybody at this university right now? At that moment. University of St. Andrews, yeah, it's the oldest, third oldest English in the, third oldest English-speaking university in the world, next to Cambridge and Oxford. Now, here's what I want to connect it with. You saw the scene running, right? And it was a setup for what was the 1924 Paris Olympics, the Summer Olympics. And there were two runners, many runners, I should say, and other athletes that represented Great Britain, right? And at the time, in the Olympics, you're British or you're not, right? And they represented Great Britain, 1924. And among the runners, there were two that were exceptional. One of whom was Abraham's, who was a Cambridge man, and clearly very focused and really exceptionally good. And the second was this guy here, Eric Liddell. Okay, and Eric Liddell, that's an actual picture of him there, and he was one of those being represented running on the beach that you just saw, right? He was Scottish and didn't have all of the sort of the fancy things, for training and anything. In order for him to even be considered, he would run in the highlands, up and down, and that sort of thing. He is Scottish, but was born in China, okay, where his father, his parents were there, but his father was a missionary in China. And Eric Liddell came back, and it's one of these things where sometimes, as many of you know, some of us are gifted with certain qualities, certain areas within our lives that can only be characterized as gifts. Others may learn and pick up skills along the way, but then you realize that this person is gifted. This is a different thing. And I've said in other contexts, at other places, that along the way we pick up skills and we may even abandon those as we go along, depending. But it would be a terrible thing to sacrifice a gift that we have been given. And Eric Liddell was gifted. This was almost like a divine gift to him. And he, and people spoke about him. And the people in the highlands came out to see him. And he made the team. And they went to Paris. But as they were going, even before arriving there, it became, the schedule was set, as in fact it is right now in Milan, in Italy. And strange things happen along the way. Veer and I were talking over the last few days. While the Olympics is going on right now, of course, there are other major sporting events in the world right now. Okay, in cricket, there's something called the 2020, which, by the way, will be part of the Olympics in 1928, Summer Olympics. But this is a world championship going on right now with about 16 teams. And one of those teams has decided they don't want to play another because of the politics. Okay? And now they're discussing do you get to pick and choose if you don't want to play this team? Okay? So strange how politics have entered. Eric Liddell discovered along the way that his race, which was the 100 meters, was going to be on a Sunday. And he was taught that, in fact, the Sunday is so absolutely set apart as a time of rest that you cannot essentially do anything, whether it's work or play. And he told the committee he will not run on Sunday. He would rather forfeit the chance at winning a gold medal than run. Okay? Now, you and I might say, you don't want so narrowly define something as to make it legalistic. But he didn't. And the committee, the Olympic Committee, cajoled and talked and discussed and begged. And he said no. He said it's a matter of conscience for him. And he didn't. By the way, you're waiting for me to say, okay, and he didn't. And one of the members of the Olympic team, who came from a much more elite, is very good, as a 400 meters runner, said to him, I will forfeit my place and let you run the 400 meters, which will not be on a Sunday. And Eric Liddell had never run a 400 meters. But he did. Look it up. And you can see there's even some footage. He ran and won the gold, shocking everyone because he'd never done it before. It's a remarkable story, of course. And he could have done any number of things in his life, but he decided to go back to China to be a missionary and follow in his father's footsteps, and became ill while he was there. but he would not leave to come back. He got the treatment, but ultimately was also placed in an internment camp in China. And despite pleadings by the government, he just remained in that camp and died in that camp. He's a young man. That's him there. In the 400 meters, 100 years ago in Paris. When his body was brought back to Scotland for burial, the script among the Scottish people, in part because he was one, he was a son of Scotland. The people knew him, they loved him. And it said, when he died, quote, all Scotland mourned. Not just the community, not just his family, all Scotland mourned. This is how the text that we're about to look at begins. This is how it begins. In 1 Samuel, I'll read it because it's hard to read from up here, but those of you who couldn't, it simply says, this is not my words, by the way. I try to read what the text says. I don't want to paraphrase and so on. The text says, now Samuel died, and all of Israel assembled and mourned for him. Samuel died, and all of Israel mourned for him. And I was thinking about that as I was preparing, in part because, of course, the connection that I have with, obviously, St. Andrews. In fact, Vera and I actually saw a production of Chariots of Fire in a London theater. It was not that okay. It was okay. That's the problem when you actually see the real thing and then you're trying to do running on stage, right? I mean, literally, that's what I'm thinking. How are they going to do this? And I think we were right to wonder and then to discover, well, not very well. All Israel mourned when they assembled, and Samuel died. And they buried him at his home. And then David moved in the desert. So, this is where we begin. Okay? And once again, as we're discovering what it means, right, to have a time of peace and the challenges that go with that. And I thought we would explore this particular narrative. The text, as an aside, by the way, this is a plug for next week, maybe in the week after. The Old Testament text that we heard this morning, which, by the way, is a profound, what we would call sort of Deutero-Isaiah text, a text that comes after the exile, maybe Trito, as they call it. But as you look at that text, and particularly as we're heading into Lent right now, and where fasting takes place, as you look at that text, it's profound. And that's one of the texts that I'll be looking at in the next couple of weeks or so. All right. We didn't deal with it this morning, but we will attend to it in the weeks ahead. And so this goes, okay. A certain man who had property there at Carmel was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats, 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. Now, a while back, last week and the week before, and maybe the week before, I asked you the question, do you know of anyone who has named their child Ahab or Jezebel? And so I will fast forward now to Nabal. Do you know of anyone who has named their child Nabal? Okay, and let me make a plug. This is a public service announcement now. Okay, if you know of anyone who is thinking about that, stop them. Okay? And if need be, I will help. Because it's a terrible name. And I'll tell you why. So you will hear the story here in a second. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. By the way, Abigail is beautiful. In case you're wondering, please feel free to recommend Abigail. And according to the text, and sometimes when a text omits certain things, it should tell you, right? This text begins to describe, it does describe Nabal, we'll get to that, but it begins by describing Abigail. And you have it in front of you, and the text says, she was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband was surly and mean. By the way, I know that opposites attract, but this is nuts. Okay? She is intelligent and beautiful, and he is surly and mean. And thankfully, we don't have anyone who fits that description in our world today. Okay? Huh? Yes, you said yes, we do. I'm simply posing, I'm simply expressing a statement. I mean, imagine you're a biblical character, and all we can come up with are two adjectives that says you are surly and mean. And as they say, what good could come after that? As we will discover in this story, actually not much. Okay, and it would be left to Abigail. So here's the story. Well, while David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. I don't want to be able to say that quickly too often, but he was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men and said to them, go to Nabal of Carmel and greet him in my name. Right? Tell him that I've sent you. And say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. By the way, I understand, in a very serious note, we don't speak that way today. Good. Actually, sometimes, occasionally we do. A couple of times, not very long ago, we were with our young granddaughter who was who cannot speak yet. By the way, she is, she can't even walk as yet, and she was sneezing. So I said to her, "Gesundheit," and I will keep repeating that until she can speak, and then probably ask me, what does that mean anyway? Okay, and as you know, it means good health. It doesn't mean God bless you. By the way, I hope God blesses you, but it does mean, of course, good health, right? Yeah, good health. Gesundheit. And that's what they say, in Germany. Okay, so we do use that kind of language, but not everyday language. We don't go around and says, may the Lord grant you good health as you walk, but this is what it says. But here is what I want to get at here. If we can, this thing does not always cooperate. Mickey, I don't know what's going on. It's not moving. But here is what I want to point out to you. I'll read that again. Say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. When you look at the Hebrew, however, okay, in that line, in that verse in Hebrew, right, it repeats the word, not necessarily good health, and not necessarily your, it says good health twice, and your household. Actually, it repeats the word shalom 3 times. What it says, go, thank you. What it says, okay, go, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Okay, you don't have to read Hebrew here, but what I have up here is this. It begins by saying, essentially, say to him, long life to you, right? Actually, long and to peace with you. And then the second part says, good health. It really says, and shalom to you as well. And then the third part says, and good health. Right? All of those yellow words in there in Hebrew are, excuse me, is the Hebrew for shalom. Okay? So what David does is not simply saying, hey, I hope all is well, good health to you, I hope you. What David is saying, I come to you, to Nabal, right? He sends his messenger. He is the king after all, with peace. I come to you, and by the way, we should not take this as a kind of as a throwaway idea. I mean, as we will look and see here in a moment, when we see in the liturgy the line that says, peace be unto you, it should not be a throwaway line. Okay? It should be a pronouncement that says, you're being granted peace. It has to be something that has the meaning that is rich, that has depth, that has the sense of wholeness and goodness and good health, if you will. This is the message that David is sending simply to these people. He said, please go and tell them that peace be unto you, and peace be to your household, and I grant you peace. Okay? And it's important because sometimes we lose things in translation. There is nothing wrong inherently about granting good health to someone. I get that. In fact, we all would want that. But peace, and I remember Pastor Jan was saying to me back in December that he had an assignment for me, that he wanted me to report to him after Christmas in 2 weeks, and that's the kind of statement when students hear, right? It's a time of trepidation. You don't want, and Pastor Jan is here, so he will correct me. He said to me, can you think of another word for shalom that is not peace? And the reason being, because, of course, it's become, not for us in this room, and I said it sincerely, it becomes kind of a throwaway word, right? Peace, peace. I mean, the false prophets were saying that. Peace, peace. Hey, I mean, by the way, you just have to listen to the news and look at TV or read the newspaper today, right? If you are coming in from Mars and you're reading what certain things are being said, you would think that all is well. Except, of course, all is not well. Peace, peace, peace. Except there is no peace. And I actually was thinking about that. I had so many wakeless nights thinking about this. Meals that I couldn't eat, I was thinking about. And I thought, there are only two words, and to be honest, neither is satisfactory. Because if you think of the wholeness of peace, you think of course, harmony, right? Which sounds very musical in a way, but harmony writ large. But that's not going to go anyplace. And the other one is concord, which actually has to do with the heart, as you know, literally with art. That's what the word means, right? And to live in concord is really to live in peace, but that's not going to go anyplace. So we get back to shalom. That's it, right? Sometimes you simply have to use the original word. And in this case, it's shalom. And so I grant you shalom. That's what, if you walk in Israel, that's what you'll be greeted with, regardless if you're Muslim or Christian or Jewish, right? Shalom Aleichem, peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. It's the same root of the word in Arabic as it is in Hebrew. Okay? That's what you grant. And that's what he sent. And so here's the message. Now I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them. This is David's message now. And the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Ask your own servants, and they will tell you. Therefore, please be favorable to my men. Since we come at a festive time, please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find. Please help us. Okay? And David says, I'm sending you in a peaceful way. Please help us. Okay? And by the way, this just so that you know, we have helped others before, and in fact, have done so graciously. And this is not a quid pro quo. This is, given that we are entering into Carmel, into your area, and have some kind of brief history here, we ask that you help us. It's not too much, right? We do this at Good Shepherd here in a different kind of a way, with so many of the ministries that have to do with helping others, many of whom we do not know or may never know. When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name, and they waited. Here is Nabal's message to David. Nabal answered David's servant, "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse?" I don't want to be silly here, but we have variations of this in our country right now, right? You don't want to help, you don't want to care, you don't want to attend, you don't want to show compassion, you don't want to have and so you say, I never heard of this person. Who is this person? Except for one slight problem. You know full well who this person is. But that's one way to be dismissive, right? Who is this David? And even though you may not know who David is, maybe if you're coming for help, you may wonder, yeah, I've never heard of David, but I'm willing to, instead, who is this David? I mean, you can imagine the sneer, right? And who is this son of Jesse? As if to suggest, should I know? And more importantly, as one famous jacket once said, I don't care, do you? Okay? This is Nabal saying, who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? I don't know, and I don't care. Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why shall I take my bread and water and the meat that I have slaughtered from my shears and give it to men coming from who knows where? By the way, think about this. Many are breaking away from their masters these days. What does that hint at? Right? First of all, ownership. Many are breaking away from one human being who owns another human being. And I can't trust these people. This David. Who is this David? I don't know if he's breaking away from some ownership and I'm going to give him my bread and water. No, I can't do that. People are running away. And they should not be running away, by the way. They should remain. I was struck a few months ago, actually, several months ago, I think it was last summer, when I was invited to do a book review for a volume from Oxford. And this book review, the title, I can't remember the exact title, but the title was something about humans created in the divine image. That was that was actually pretty close to the title. But what made the book an important sort of Oxford type book was the fact that it was a translation and a commentary from a 2nd century early church father, Gregory of Nyssa. Okay? And half of the book is in Greek, half of it is, page after page in English. Okay? There's Greek and English. And so I accepted because I had never read this particular book and much of Gregory. So I accepted. And the review was published in December. And one of the reasons is that they wanted me to talk about a post-colonial perspective about Gregory in the book, which I did. But the thing that remains with me today, and I suspect it will tomorrow and next year and the years after, is the idea that Gregory in that book argued that one human being should never own another human being. This is Gregory from the 2nd century, 2,400 years ago. One human being should never own another human being. And my appreciation of Gregory just deepened profoundly. Nabal said, I can't be giving my food and my water to people who conceivably could be running away from their masters. Can't do that. And he sends them away. David's men turned around and went back. David's men turned around. When they arrived, they reported every word. David said to them, by the way, and sometimes there is a reason why we have this old adage that says there are certain circumstances where you simply have to count from 1 to 10, right? Before you respond. By the way, I do that regularly. And in fact, there are instances when I get some emails where I'm easily counting from 1 to 100 overnight. No, seriously, because you're thinking, is this the sort of best we can do here? So we wait, right? But here, David doesn't wait. David says, really? No help? Well, I guess we're just going to have to fight. It's like a declaration of war right there. David says, each of you strap on your sword. And you want to say, David, hang on for a second. 1 to 10. Pause. There's no time to pause here. Who is this son of Jesse? Servant, So David sends shalom and he receives insults in return. Okay? And again, nothing that could make us think that this applies today. Anyway, so David said to his men, each of you strap on your sword. So they did, and David strapped on his as well. By the way, you have to give him credit for this. Because as you know, there are certain leaders who are perfectly happy to send others into places of war, but don't want to go to war themselves, because of all kinds of injuries to the heel and that sort of thing. Okay? You heard of that thing. And just so that you know, David is not the only one. Okay? If you read the book of Judges, you will see that Deborah and others, right? They are not just sending sort of men in those cases into war. They are willing to go. And David strapped on his armor as well. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. One of the servants stole Abigail, and we want to sort of keep this in perspective. Okay, David sent servants from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. This is Nabal's wife. This is Abigail. And I'm inviting us to keep track of Abigail, because things could have gone terribly wrong instantly here. But Abigail steps in because she heard, perhaps saw what occurred. David sent messengers from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. I mean, think of that phrase, hurling insults. And let's be very clear. It would be sort of, we could read this in some kind of historical context, well, in biblical times or whatever. Except, of course, it's happening today. Right? This is not hyperbole. There are those who are hurling insults for a variety of reasons. But Abigail steps in. And Abigail says, essentially, I don't know why he would do this. Actually, she does. We will discover. Because when you are surly and mean, this is what you do. Right? This is kind of like an early, maybe not the earliest, but certainly an early version of ad hominem. Right? And when you have nothing, Jeff, you know this, right? Yeah. When you've got nothing by way of a good argument, what do? You attack the messenger, right? I mean, when all of your arguments, whether it's in a court or elsewhere, fails, what are you going to say? Well, Alan, what do I expect from you? You don't even wear a tie. Right? It has nothing to do. I mean, look at Jeff. Why can't you be like Jeff? Right? You begin the ad hominem type insults. Well, what do you expect from someone who, lives in this, Nazareth, right? Could anything good come out of? I mean, we have this kind of thing, right? What do you expect someone who grew up in, right? What do you expect someone whose family is this? What do you expect someone who wears clothes? I mean, this is what you do. You hurl insults. You tell a reporter, well, I shouldn't expect anything from you because you don't know how to smile. I could make this up, but of course I don't have to. Okay? Because you've got nothing else. And you have to avoid certain things because, of course, you don't want to go there. It's precarious. But Abigail steps in. And here, by the way, it's interesting because what Abigail does, which I believe is profound, and that's why she's described as intelligent and beautiful, right? That's kind of like a bonus here. What Abigail does is to equate shalom with what? With goodness, right? She equates shalom with goodness because he sent shalom to the people and she said, yet these men were very good to us, right? She equates, rightly so. He did not mistreat us. And the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. They didn't come here to steal our things. They didn't come here to take away our jobs. They didn't come here to sort of, destroy our environment. They didn't do any of the above. In fact, it says, night and day they were a wall around us the whole time we were herding our sheep. They came here, as it turns out, to do what? To protect us. Their presence turned out to be a protection against others who conceivably could harm us. And so maybe there is a place for a wall. This is it. Now think it over and see what you can do. Because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. And that's part of the issue here, right? When the disaster and retribution and revenge, whatever, comes, right? It's not going to be only against the one person who has the dictates, but it will invariably what? Affect the whole community, the whole household. And let's be clear. The Greek word for household, which actually you know the derivative. In fact, I know you know the derivative of the Greek word. You may not necessarily immediately think, oh yeah, that's the Greek word, but you know the derivative. Oikonomos. What does that sound like, by the way? It's the word that gives us economics or economy. And in theological circles, it gives us what other word? Ecumenical. It's the same word. It's the same word. When you have an ecumenical gathering, you have a gathering what? Of everyone, the household of faith. That's what an ecumenical gathering is. That is what here. So in other words, it is not only going to be directed at me because I'm really not a nice human being and I'm surly and mean. That kind of response will affect all of us here as members of a community of faith. So when it says about household, this is not that we do this, but this is not an invitation for us to say, household, thankfully I live by myself, so it's just me. No. It means the whole community. They are absolutely consequential ripple effects. And Abigail, thankfully, knows this. And Abigail says, he is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. Yikes. But, occasionally you have ancient texts that have modern application that are so striking that you don't, as they say, you don't need to have commentary. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. I can't imagine. And Abigail acted quickly. By the way, are you falling in love with Abigail here? I hope you are. She acted quickly. She did not say, well, I better form a task force here. No! Because some things are so evidently urgent and necessary, you don't need a task force. Something I said? Okay, good. Oh, don't worry about it. She's acted immediately, urgently. Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs. By the way, if you know what a seah is, first of all, we don't have seahs here. But as a measuring, right? It's approximately how many did she take? She takes how many? 5, right? And it's approximately 1.9, just under 2 gallons. Okay. So by the way, this is not just a kind of a token here. I wish my surly husband didn't do this. I tell you what, let me give you $10 and I hope you go. I mean, no, this is a serious undertaking of what they wanted. Of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisin, 200 cakes of pressed figs. By the way, I don't know how they came up with all of this so quickly, but that's not the point. And loaded them on donkeys. Then she told her servants, go ahead, I will follow you. But she did not tell her husband. Now, we can extrapolate. Should she have told her husband? In case you're wondering if you should always tell when something like this happens, maybe follow Abigail. It's not to hide, because it makes it very clear. Had she told that surly, mean man, who she describes as wicked, right? What are the chances he would say, you know what? I'm sorry, clearly I was wrong, and you're really. What are the chances? What are the chances? By the way, this is not like, well, there's always an outside chance. There is no chance. As in, when someone is asked, do you regret and apologize for posting something that is racist? I do not apologize. Okay? By the way, this is not me saying this. This is what is in the public sphere. Awful, awful stuff. And it would not diminish you. If anything, sometimes that kind of apology, right, elevates a kind of a, sense that maybe there is an emerging human quality here that clearly has been missing for a while. As it turns out, there isn't. So she says, she does not tell her husband. And she came riding her donkey into the mountain ravine, and there was David and his men descending towards her, and she met them. And David had just said, it's been useless, all of my watching over this fellow's property in the wilderness, so that nothing of his was missing, and he has paid me back evil for good. And you can see, right? He has paid me back evil, which could be construed here as that which is the opposite of peace, since goodness is equated with shalom. He has done the opposite for me. May the Lord deal with David, may it be ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male of all who belong to him. By the way, this is terrible stuff. I'm going to go and I'm going to fight. I'm taking 400. We're all armed with our swords, and we're not going to leave one single male alive after we're finished with Nabal's household. But Abigail saw David. She quickly got off her donkey, bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and says, "Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say." Pay no attention, my lord, to that wicked man, Nabal. By the way, this takes a kind of a courage here. Keep in mind, we're looking at a biblical world here with Abigail, who is painfully aware of the kind of man her husband is. And she goes in secrecy with all of the stuff on donkeys, essentially to avoid war and bloodshed and violence. Please pay no attention, my lord, to that wicked man, Nabal. I am asking you, please do not do anything based on that wicked man, Nabal. By the way, this is not Abigail, the dutiful, loyal wife who is trying to somehow skirt around using euphemisms. He's described as mean, as surly, evil, and wicked. I think that's,
Very total.
yeah. It's not, you don't leave much room in there to say. So, to be clear here, by evil you mean sort of, kind of, not nice, is it? I mean, is there any room in evil for not evil? No.
But what she doesn't say is, but I still love
That's what I mean. Certain things in the biblical text that are absent should tell us everything we need to know. Right? Right? True? By the way, we are having all kinds of sociological, existential questions. Why did she stay with him? Oh, how do I know? I just read this text. By the way, that's not an irrelevant question in today's society, in any time, of course, right? He is just like, by the way, and then she goes on to say, and you have to love this, he's just like his name. His name means what? Fool. And just for the record, I want to, let me see if I have it up here. I think I do. Not yet. Let me, okay. The Hebrew word Nabal means fool. So not only is his name Nabal, this is one of these instances where his name actually reflects who he is. You know, imagine walking around where your name means idiot. So you're shouting, excuse me over there, idiot, you know. Here, his name means fool. So I don't know. Today, I'm sorry.
Better not go there.
No, yeah. Sometimes my inner voice says to me, leave it alone, leave it alone, leave it alone. Just, and then in case it's only a whisper, my inner voice, that is, then it reminds me a little bit more loudly, leave it alone. His name means fool, and folly goes with it. As for me, your servant, I did not see my men, my Lord sent, and now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives, and as you live, may the Lord, by the way, and here you can see in the English here, right, the way Lord is written, right? One simply means, one is just a common word that means Lord. Adonai means Lord. But one, when you see all of the uppercase, it's one way to distinguish it. It's simply a rendering of the word Yahweh. Okay, so the common LORD could be kind of given as a respect. Oh my Lord, whatever the case might be. So that's the difference here. Now, oh my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives and as you live, since the Lord has kept me from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who intend on harming my Lord be like Nabal. And now let this gift, which your servant has brought to my Lord, be given to the men who follow you. Please accept my gift. Right? And it's great. By the way, it's important. This is a gift. Accept it. And accept it in light of what perhaps should have been in the first place. But my husband, the idiot, right, the fool, the wicked one, who is evil, chose otherwise. Let me just pause here for a second. I think our history, I don't mean American history, just history in general. I think our history indicates with a great deal of certainty, right, that it never ends well. It never does. It doesn't end well for Herod. It doesn't end well for Caligula. Or more modern, it doesn't end well for Hitler. It doesn't end well for Stalin. It doesn't, But the challenge is not whether we can look back and say, well, it doesn't end well. It's always what happens between now and then. What happens, and the sort of the swath of destruction, sowing seeds of discontent and hatred. And how do you begin over time to try to undo some of this, some of which could never be undone? So it's never to simply say, well, I'm telling you, Nabal, this will not end well for you. Actually, we know that. The issue has to do with what happens in between the now and then. And occasionally, there is an Abigail who steps in and avoids what could only be characterized as a slaughter and bloodshed, and pleads with David, please forgive your servant's presumption. The Lord your God will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my Lord because you fight for the Lord's battle and so on. And when you become king, by the way, just a little something. Please remember me. And it's hard to blame Abigail. Abigail almost is prophetic here. She says, I know you will be great. I know that you will have a dynasty. And when that happens, please. Okay. By the way, did anyone, I'm putting you to the test now. Can you think of another female character with something of a dubious kind of profession who utter almost the same words? Old Testament. Rahab. Yes. Who gave, remember? Who hid? Right? The men? They came looking? It's Rahab. And Rahab says, please remember your servant when all is well. The Lord your God brought you success, remember. Then David accepted from her hand what she had brought, and he said, go home in peace. I have heard your words and granted your requests. Important here. Are we really over time? Oh, wow. Sorry, let me wrap up here. Right. When we start talking about evil and wickedness, you know how we get carried away, right? I'll say quickly. What David says to her, which is instructive, he says, go home in peace. I have accepted your request. And in this case, by the way, he uses the feminine singular. You don't see it in English, but it's in Hebrew. Go home to your house in peace. By the way, forget about that wicked Nabal. I'm not even including plural here. This is now your house. Go home, and go home how? In peace. So we come full circle. Okay, we need to stop there. We'll finish up with this, and then we will get into some of the other prophetic things.